all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on the Russ Belville Show are their own, and the Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, October 9th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us today on this beautiful Wednesday, and we've got all sorts of great news for the cannabis community coming to you today. We'd also like to welcome some new prime sponsors here at the Russ Belville Show, including our fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. You'll be hearing from her in just a little bit. We've also got a collective that wants to be a prime sponsor. We're going to get their information to us very soon, and we'll have a new prime sponsor probably on next week's show as well. So check that out, and make sure to support our prime sponsors because it's their support that helps keep us on the air, as well as you becoming a VIP member at 420radio.org. As a VIP member, you'll get access to the daily Toker Tunes feeds and the Toker Talk radio feed that only VIPs have access to at 420radio.org. Also, big news on the website, we have created a brand new mobile-friendly web portal. So when you log on to 420radio.org with your smartphone or your tablet, it'll redirect to 420radio.org/mobile, where there's a nice player there and a link to our TuneIn application if you just want to listen to audio only, which can stream sometimes a whole lot better than the Ustream stream. So check that out, all at 420radio.org. All right, on today's show, all sorts of great information. We've got an interview that we did last Friday on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour with Chris Butts from the Alabama Medical Marijuana Coalition, which got kicked out of 2 events in 2 successive weekends for petitioning to get people information, not to pass a law, just to get people information on the medical uses of cannabis. So we'll bring that up to you at 1:30. At 45 past in our Radical Rant, I got to talk a little bit about the Tea Party antics of Denver attorney Rob Corey and the no on Proposition AA anti-tax measure that's going on there. Got all sorts of interesting data for you, and you can decide whether the taxes proposed in Colorado are just too high. Also, and behind the headlines, we're going to look at whether or not marijuana can get you addicted. Well, at least according to the DSM-5, the new diagnostic manual for psychiatrists that is coming out. We'll take a look at what it defines as marijuana addiction, dependence, and withdrawal syndrome. We've also got our Irie Wednesday Daily Toker Tunes, so we'll have Gordon Green calling in a little bit later with some great music, and an hour or two we'll take it to Toker Talk Radio, where you become the voice of the marijuana nation. Stick around, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember NCC420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activists to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today. This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, October 9th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Legal marijuana trend spreads as more states weigh votes from Bloomberg.com. Voter support for legal marijuana in Washington and Colorado is spurring similar campaigns in California and 3 other states that together may bring pot within lawful reach of almost 1 in 5 Americans. Advocates are seeking signatures of registered voters in California, Arizona, Oregon, and Alaska with a combined population of 49 million to put the question on ballots in 2014. Colorado and Washington last year legalized marijuana for 12.1 million people. In California, more than half of residents support legalizing marijuana, according to a poll by the nonpartisan Public Policy Institute of California in San Francisco, 52% of all adults. Counting only likely voters, the figure is 60%. Because California is the largest state by population, the campaign for legalization needs 504,000 signatures by February 24th to qualify. In Alaska, one of the least populated states, just 30,000 signatures are needed before the legislature goes into session in January. 2 pot measures are being circulated for signatures in Oregon, where a referendum to legalize recreational pot use failed last year, 53 to 47%. One measure to legalize marijuana use requires 116,000 signatures to qualify as a constitutional amendment, while a second one, setting up an Oregon Cannabis Commission to regulate its growth and sale, requires 87,000 signatures from registered Oregon voters. Canadian company eyes Kentucky for possible hemp plant from Modesto B. A Canadian hemp processor looking to expand operations south of the border sees Kentucky as fertile territory for production and processing, but its top executive said Wednesday that questions about the crop's legality have to be resolved first. Hemp Oil Canada Inc. President and CEO Sean Cruz said the bluegrass state is in the running for a possible plant in the U.S. to process hemp seeds. The company would look to contract with area farmers to supply seeds to the plant, he said. The company, based in a small town south of Winnipeg, is looking at other states, including North Dakota, Minnesota, Colorado, and California, for potential expansion. Doctor convicted for improperly recommending medical marijuana from CBS Local in Denver. The distinction Dr. Joseph Montante now holds is something he does not welcome. He's now convicted of prescribing medical marijuana without conducting a proper exam. Montante's problems started when an undercover officer visited his office in Loveland. He said he wanted to get a medical marijuana card, but he did not have any of the required conditions. Colorado law requires a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, but the undercover officer's visit with Montante only took a matter of minutes. Drug investigators say the doctor's supervision is incredibly important because although 18 to 21-year-olds are not eligible for recreational pot, they are eligible for medical marijuana. Montante was sentenced to 30 days in prison, plus 3 years probation for attempting to influence a public servant. His medical license was suspended as well. Montante claims he was entrapped, saying, quote, "The undercover agent lied to get into my office." Scarsdale pot mom throws self at mercy of the court, from the New York Daily News. The Scarsdale pop mom has pleaded guilty to running a $1 million marijuana growing operation like the lead character in the Showtime series Weeds. Andrea Sanderlin, age 45, admitted her drug crimes took place from 2009 right up to the time she was arrested in May. Quote, I operated a facility in which I, together with others, grew at least 1,000 marijuana plants and sold the marijuana product from the plants. End quote, she said. She told the judge she had not consumed any narcotics or alcohol in the past 24 hours and understood the charge she was pleading guilty to carried a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence and a maximum of life in prison. There is an exception to mandatory minimum sentences called a safety valve that could be triggered depending on the defendant having a minor criminal history without violence and a willingness to voluntarily spill everything to prosecutors about the crime. It is unclear whether Sanderlin will qualify for the safety valve or whether she's ratting out her co-conspirators. Sanderlin is free on a $500,000 bail and living with her mother in Manhattan. Inside Silk Road's drug market, U.S. pot and cocaine are cheap, from CNNMoney.com. The last week, the FBI busted the Silk Road website, a massive black market that specialized in the anonymous sale of drugs. But before the feds shut it down, an Australian startup called the Price Geek harvested the data and found that the average weekly cost for a marijuana smoker in Germany would be $40, the United Kingdom $35, the Czech Republic $32, the U.S. $27, and only $20 a week in Canada. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, October 9th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines and we take a look at the terms of dependence, addiction, and withdrawal with respect to marijuana, according to the new DSM-5 Manual for Psychiatry. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back. Hey, tokers and tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting.
I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go. 420radio.org presents Cannabis Cure TV with Greg DeHote from Sussex, England, exploring medical marijuana and marijuana legalization in Europe and the UK. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Pacific, with replays Wednesday at 11 a.m., Thursday at 4 a.m., and Saturdays at 7 a.m., right here on 420radio.org. Welcome back, everybody. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And on today's Behind the Headlines, we're going to take a look at whether or not you can become addicted to marijuana. And this was brought to my mind by Orlando's attorney, John Morgan, who got busted by PolitiFact recently. He was being interviewed about his drive to get medical marijuana in the ballot in Florida and was asked whether or not you could become addicted to it. And he said, quote, nobody's addicted to it, end quote. Now, that watchdog organization, PolitiFact, got involved when he said that, and they judged his claim as false. But Morgan himself fessed up, saying, quote, it was a huge mistake. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed. I messed it up, end quote. As Morgan tried to explain, he meant to compare the relatively low dependency and withdrawal that you face with cannabis to the potentially fatal risks of addictions to opioid painkillers. Now, as it turns out, marijuana is addictive, but it really depends on what you mean by addictive. My dad was a speed and alcohol addict. He wrecked at least 2 cars in DUIs. Now, there were no other cars involved. He just rolled the cars themselves. And he would often disappear on fortnight-long drinking binges when I was a kid. I watched him kick both those drugs cold turkey style once. The screams, hallucinations, vomiting, shaking, cold sweats, and nightmares he suffered through gave me a pretty clear picture of what addiction really means. I don't ever recall a marijuana dry spell that put me through the ringer like that. But just because pot ain't heroin, cocaine, meth, alcohol, or cigarettes doesn't mean it isn't addictive. According to the National Institutes on Drug Abuse, about 9%, or 1 in 11 users, will develop a clinical dependence on cannabis. That figure, by the way, is roughly the risk of dependence faced by users of benzodiazepines, like Valium, Xanax, and Ambien, as well as caffeine. Of course, the risk is greater with other drugs. Alcohol and cocaine hook about 1 in 6, heroin, meth get about 1 in 5, and cigarettes addict just about 1/3 of all the people who ever try them. The latest psychiatric manual, the 5th edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, commonly known as DSM-5, takes steps to differentiate between addiction and dependence. Charles O'Brien, MD, chair of the work group on the subject for the American Psychiatric Association, co-authored an editorial that explained, quote, the term dependence has traditionally been used to describe physical dependence, which refers to the adaptations that result in withdrawal. However, that is distinct from addiction, which refers to the loss of control over the intense urges to take a drug, even at the expense of adverse consequences, end quote. So, now both dependence and addiction are going to be rated along a spectrum that they're going to call substance abuse disorders, broken down by type of substance. The criteria now includes drug craving, but will no longer include problems with law enforcement, since the illegality of drugs sort of creates that problem in the first place. Addiction also includes non-drug activities like gambling addiction, and noted drug researcher and author Stanton Peele, PhD, argues that someday the APA should include internet addiction, sex addiction, and food addiction to that official category. Now, the APA's definition of cannabis use disorder includes someone who ceases heavy, prolonged cannabis use and experiences, quote, clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning, end quote. So to qualify, one must demonstrate at least 3 of the following symptoms of cannabis withdrawal: irritability, anger, or aggression, nervousness or anxiety, sleep difficulties or insomnia, decreased appetite or weight loss, restlessness, depressed mood, and or physical symptoms such as stomach pain, shakiness, or tremors, sweating, fever, chills, and headache. Well, considering how many people use cannabis to treat some of those conditions, how much of this so-called cannabis withdrawal is really just a return of the symptoms the person was treating successfully with cannabis? If cannabis were completely legal, how much pressure would a toker feel to consider himself addicted if he was allowed to go about his life and career without testing and sanctions for cannabis use? If you're using cannabis and you want to stop, but you find you're unable to, then you're dependent on cannabis. Fortunately, the Affordable Care Act has opened up many more affordable treatment options for people with substance use disorders to get professional help. But for most of us using cannabis, it enhances and enriches our lives. It is only the prohibition of cannabis that tries to force us to stop and defines us as addicts if we choose not to. If we can smoke a joint and still be responsible and productive citizens, we are no more addicted than the average buzz-seeking beer drinker. Speaking of buzz-seeking, I got Stoney and Snap in the room today, and you know that means we're going to be hunting for strains. So, ladies, what do we got? We don't know. We're just smoking it.
That's right. We're waiting to see what our
Oh yeah, this is it's Crater Lake. It's Oregon's version of Blue Dream. That's right. All right, so we're gonna do some Crater Lake. We'll be right back with our Irie Wednesday Daily Toker Tunes.
That means delivery is
South Carolina, then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up!
Georgia.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're feeling Irie. We've got Gordon Green on the line for Irie Wednesday. How you doing, Gordon?
Hey, Russ.
Hey, I wanted to apologize to you for last weekend. I messed up on the Steel Pulse track. That was my bad, not yours. I wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
Hey, no problem, man. Things happen.
Yeah, it happens.
It was a great show, and we got to hear a good track from Amsterdam anyway.
That's right. Yeah, it worked out just fine. Now, on today's track here, I hope I've got it right. Kabaka Pyramid?
Yeah, man, Kabaka Pyramid. His real name is Karen Solomon. He's I guess he's born in Kingston, but works between Miami, Orlando, and Kingston. He back in May he won Billboard.com's Next Big Sound Award, which is their award for the fastest moving band as far as popularity, music hits, social networking, so forth.
Gotcha.
And this is a great track that he did with a British singer named Sarah Lugo, and she won a British Reggae Industry Award for Best International Female Artist this year. And it's a great track, man. I've been listening to these guys all day. And Kabaka Pyramid, he's all over Bandcamp. You can actually get his EP called Rebel Music. You can get that free at Bandcamp. You can check out their videos on YouTube as well, and hope you dig it.
Yeah, Kabaka Pyramid featuring Sarah Lugo. This track is called Trying, and you can get this as well at 420radio.org, where Gordon Green is manning the Irie Wednesday blog. If you're a VIP member of 420 Radio, not only can you get the track for download, you can subscribe to the podcast and get the tracks that way every Wednesday. So check out Gordon's writing on 420radio.org. Thanks, Gordon, for calling in, and I hope you're having an Irie Wednesday, man.
Peace out, brother. You too.
All right. This is...
Yo, Kabaka, you good?
Yeah, man.
Kabaka Pyramid.
You good?
Yeah. I'm alright.
So, good.
You know, recently there's been a couple of things in my life that I'm trying to get into. Trying to feel them, understand them. Somehow. Get there, you know. So, you can't force it. If you don't feel it, you don't feel it, right?
Yeah, a life that's still enough.
Yes, I am trying to catch a vibe. Trying to catch it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves. Yes, I am trying to catch a vibe. Trying to catch it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves.
Let me know. This up in my people working hard for make a life. Boss man, I move like him, I try to take your stripe. Him a the biggest thing, and you is like a pepper life. Frustrated because the money not quite what you need to survive. For your family, you can't even provide, much less sleeping at night. These are the things that I have stuck up on my mind. Stress upon my brain, but I never give up no time, no.
Trying to catch a vibe. Trying to get it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves. Yes, I am trying to catch a vibe. Trying to catch it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool
Once
ourselves.
again, so many people them get brought up and caught up in the system. Them try to be somebody that them not turning up the victim. The images them depicting far from what the scriptures that was written said about the prophets and the righteous history. Them lying to them own self. Them not know what them creating and them own hell where them alone a dwell. But what you need to know, if your heart not feel it, then your seed won't sow. Yeah.
I'm trying to catch a vibe. Trying to get it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves. Yes, I am trying to catch a vibe. Trying to catch it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves.
Me nah feel the way where them a deal with Rasta man. Me nah feel the life I live in Babylon. Me nah feel the lyrics where some man a put in a them song, and the youth step a put in a them young. Them say them nah feel the fire when me burn. Feel them a go feel it when the lions them emerge. Try them a try to make it work, but your life it has a purpose. Destiny inside us from we birth.
Trying to catch a vibe. Trying to catch it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves. Yes, I am trying to catch a vibe. Trying to catch it right, but I don't feel it. Can't you see it? We can try, but we can't fool ourselves.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit marijuanaissafer.com. 420radio.org presents Hemp Beach TV from the secret undisclosed location on Hemp Beach, premiering every Thursday at 10 p.m. Pacific Time with replays Friday at 11 a.m., Saturday at 9 a.m., and Mondays at 4 a.m. right here on 420 Radio.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
For today's activist agenda, we go back to last Friday night, and on the Herb Thrasher Show, we interviewed some of his homeboys from his home state of Alabama, where fighting for even medical marijuana still faces incredible difficulties. We're interviewing Chris Butts from the Alabama Medical Marijuana Coalition, who was merely trying to table at a couple of weekend events to spread the word. Going to the phones right now, we're going to Alabama, and I'm not sure who we've got on the line. Do we have Chris or Jim, or who are we talking to?
This is Chris Butts.
Chris Butts, thank you so much for being here on the Herb Thrasher Flower. This is Radical Russ, and Herb Thrasher's hanging out with me here on the line as well.
Hey, Chris, man, great to hear from you, buddy.
I appreciate you guys calling us.
Hey, it's our pleasure, and we just wanted to know, Herb was trying to fill me in on this, about you guys getting screwed over not once but twice now when you're trying to express your First Amendment rights. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Well, you know, Alabama's really conservative.
What?
That's just the way it is. Okay. And there's, there's a lot of people down the table what we and it has turned into just squashing the First Amendment in a lot of cases. We pay just like any other vendor to be there to sell our wares, to information on the medical bills we got in the legislature, and some people just are against that.
So you've been trying to do like boothing and tabling at, what are these, just public festivals or fairs?
Anywhere we find concentrations of people. We found that it's going a long way to getting into the community. But the past couple of weeks has been festivals.
Right on. All right. So what was the first festival that you were a part of there that you got into trouble? And tell us how that happened.
Well, it was last week, folks at Mule Day, and it's in Winfield, Alabama. They have it every year. It's a huge thing in that area. And we applied, went out there, set up as a vendor, just like they do everywhere. And shortly after the festival started, some of the administration of the festival comes to us and says, you're going to have to take down your banner, have to take down your shirts that have the organization's logo on it.
Now, what was their excuse? What did they say about it? I mean, are there marijuana leaves on your logo or something?
There are.
Okay.
There is a partially visible marijuana leaf on the shirt.
And did they cite that specifically?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, this week, tonight, we are at Butterbean Festival in Pinson, Alabama. And we will be there again tomorrow. I talked with the executive director of that festival. And, he's talking in circles. He says we didn't fill out things right, give away information, and take signatures and fill away. So, I appeased. I said, okay, we'll take down our banners, paper shirts. We're not going to collect signatures, but they still all like there and fill over.
All right, so you get to be there for signature gathering, and you can try to talk to people about the Alabama medical marijuana law that you're working toward, but no vending, no tabling, no big banner.
No banner, no collect signatures, but we can't sell our merchandise, and we can say anything we want to. So we can still talk about the legislation. We just can't collect signatures.
Now, did you have to pay any money in advance at these places to get a booth?
Oh yeah, the one where we started tonight, the Butterbean Festival in Pinson, it was $100 to be a vendor. We filled out the paperwork as a nonprofit, and thought that, you know, the rules would be just like anywhere else. But the executive director of that festival, his name is Ronnie Dixon. He's also a constable in the area, if you could believe it. He said that festival is his baby. He is judge, jury, and executioner, and we could leave now if we didn't want to abide by his rules. So I conceded that we would take our banners down and we wouldn't collect signatures, but we can sell our merchandise, and we will be there again tomorrow.
All right. So, with any of these situations, are you looking at getting any sort of refund on what you paid in?
No, they gave us not on this festival. Now in Winfield at the Mule Days Festival, they did give us a refund of what we paid them to be a vendor there, and we made a couple $100 while we were there and able to sell anything. So, you know, it got us a little bit of controversy and, you know, on Facebook and in the media around here, but, you know, I don't guess it was as bad as it sounds, but it's still, you know, stupid.
Now, had you considered maybe as you go for another event, changes to your banners or your logos in any way to just try to get around that?
No, I mean, I'm a graphic artist by trade. I've been doing print graphics for the past 20 plus years. I built the logo, and the logo will be remaining just like it is.
Right on, man. That's great. All right. So, what's next as far as getting getting Alabama in the column of medical marijuana state? What do you have to do?
Well, there is no ballot and referendum in the state of Alabama. Everything that goes into law comes through the legislature. So we have to get out, get community support, get these people beating their legislators over the head with this issue and not letting them forget about it. I've been working this issue in the state of Alabama for 6 or 7 years now, and, you know, we are closer now than we've ever been. We've got more support in the state house than we've ever had, but there's still some holdouts, and I don't think we've got support that will take us all the way through the legislature anytime soon, unless we can get a lot more of the Republicans to come on board. Now, we've got a lot of them now that are really looking at it, and we actually had a Republican, a 30-year law enforcement veteran. He has decided he will support us in 2014.
That's fantastic news. So when you're talking about being at these festivals and gathering signatures, these are just petitions to let the elected officials know how the people of Alabama feel.
It's just to let them know that the people of Alabama support change in marijuana policy, period. One of our bills last year was Colorado's bill, but it had our medical bill attached to it. You know, our thinking was, you know, if they wipe everything out, maybe they'll leave the medical intact. Who knows? But last year was the first year ever that they talked about this issue in the front end of the session. We have always been relegated to the last 5 days of the session and not enough time to do anything. But last year they killed one of our bills the second day of the session, and we filed 5 more behind it. You know, the fact is we're not going away. 20 states and Washington, D.C. have put medical marijuana on the books, and we intend to see it through until Alabama's another one.
All right, that sounds great. And so this is, you know, this gives me a little perspective on it, because when these festivals are not letting you table and everything, it's not like they're worried that you're going to gather so many signatures you'll get something on the ballot. This is just informing people. This is just education, and they're against that. That's really remarkable.
It really is. And, you know, and if you look through our Facebook page and look through all of our pictures, it's not the 20-year-old nose rings and pink hairs that's standing at our table. It's 70-year-old women. It's 65-year-old men who drive into West End, which here in Birmingham, that's a war zone, to get marijuana because they've got cancer. You know, we've overwhelmingly got elderly people that come to our events and come to our table when we're at these festivals.
Yeah, and that's, the danger that you mentioned, having to go into, desperate areas of town and deal with the criminal market, and especially elderly people that could be so easily taken advantage of. That's really scary, and we need to get some safe access out there in Alabama. Chris Butts, you're with the Alabama, I don't know the exact name, it's Alabama.
We are Alabama Medical Marijuana Coalition. Our website is ammjc.org.
ammjc.org, and we want to get everybody involved in that because, when we look at the map and you look at all the states that have medical marijuana in the Northeast, in the West, and then Michigan and Illinois, and people look down at the South and they think, oh, it's so red, it's so Bible Belt, it'll never get passed there. I think it'll get passed because it's red and because it's Bible Belt. Because as soon as conservatives recognize this is a conservative issue, and as soon as Christians recognize that this is what you'd want for your neighbor as yourself, I think we can pass this.
Yeah, we feel like we got a lot of momentum, and we really appreciate you guys on the West Coast, keeping in touch with us and helping us out the way you do. I want to get out there. I know Jim just left. He's our treasurer. He just left from out there, and he said he had a great time seeing you guys and seeing what it can be like for the patients of Alabama.
Right on. Well, say hi to Big Jim for us. And Herb, you want to say?
Yeah, man, say hi. And Chris, thank you for everything you're doing out there. One quick question I have is when these festival event organizers are communicating with you, are they being respectful? Do you feel like they're talking down to you? How are they treating you while they're basically kicking you out?
Well, some of them are respectful, but that only goes so far when they're really being condescending. If you really look at it, but they try to be nice, but it all boils down to their ignorance, and they don't really know what we're all about, and won't allow us to tell them. But overwhelmingly, the people of Alabama have accepted us. The last poll done in this state was 76% of the population supported medical use of marijuana, and we're going to put it on through and change some marijuana policy here.
Right on. Well, these guys are Alabama Medical Marijuana Coalition, obviously out of Alabama, doing great work for all the patients and all the cannabis community out there. Chris, thank you so much. Radical Russ, Herb Thrasher, Flower Hour, dude, you guys keep rocking, and we will keep our eyes on you guys and what you're up with, and we're definitely on your side. Thanks a lot, man.
I really appreciate it.
Take care, brother.
I really appreciate Herb Thrasher and all my friends from the South, two of whom are in the studio right now from the ATL. And, of course, Georgia Mom for Marijuana and, Rebecca Forbes in North Carolina and the folks working in Texas. The more we hear from these Southern accents, these Southern activists letting us know that just even trying to spread the word about medical marijuana can bring you trouble and hassle. Wow, that really refocuses.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars and lies.
What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earlywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations, expose pretensions, build personal relationships, and much more. He irreverently debunks the pseudoscience on the topic of humor and leaves readers not only funnier, but better informed. It's part of the Psych 101 series from Springer Publishing, Humor 101.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
The Russ Belville Show.
I'm not very good at singing songs, but here's a try.
According to lifelong pot smoker and rocket scientist Carl Sagan, making apple pies from scratch is extremely difficult.
If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe.
Radical Russ and the Rolla J Studios crew will be right back after these messages.
A morning filled with 400 billion suns, the rising of the Milky Way.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Kula!
Radical rant.
Well, folks, today it's time to embark on a rant that might not win me any friends, but I got to do it because I just can't resist addressing what I consider the Tea Party antics of Robert Corey out there in Denver and some of these people involved with the No on Proposition AA campaign. Just to fill you in, if you haven't followed this in great detail, Colorado passed Amendment 64, and it was the regulate marijuana like alcohol. Okay. And the idea was, we're going to tax and regulate marijuana. We're going to take down the black market. And a big part of the selling of Amendment 64 was the taxation that would raise money for schools. It would earmark money for schools, earmark a bunch of money, raise a bunch of money, pay for its own regulation and so forth. Now, in the meantime, after Amendment 64 passed, there was also, well, maybe not after, maybe it was before, but got the chronology is really not important, but, also in context, understand there were a couple of audits of the state's medical marijuana systems as to how well they were performing and how well they were living up to their promises of testing and carding and so forth, all these different things, regulating basically. And the audits painted a very bad picture of the Medical Marijuana Enforcement Division, of there not being basically enough money to pay for all the regulations that were promised. You promise a regulation, you got to have regulators. You got to have people and bureaucracies and paperwork and, jobs of people that are making sure the regulations are being followed, inspectors and so forth. So in the context of that already being on the minds of the public and Amendment 64 passing with this whole tax and regulate situation, promise money for schools, promise to fix things, we also introduce another wrinkle of Colorado's politics, and that is Tabor. This is a tax amendment they've got in Colorado, passed by, the typical anti-tax brigade. Taxes per se are bad. It's bad when we're taxed because government is bad. So, this got passed a while back that says if you pass an amendment, you pass an initiative, you can't also pass the taxes in it. You got to tax it separately. That's got to be a separate thing. That is, anything that raises taxes has to be voted on as a separate issue. Okay, so in that context, Amendment 64 passes with promises of taxation to fix schools. Medical marijuana didn't raise enough money in its regulation to take care of stuff. And now we got to vote on this thing called Proposition AA in Colorado, which is the taxes for marijuana. Now, there were work groups that worked on this, had to estimate how much would regulation cost, how much is it going to cost to enforce this stuff. And what they came up with, rightly or wrongly, was an initiative that says we're going to tax 15% excise tax and 10% sales tax on top of a 3.9%, 3.9%, a pretty low state sales tax. Now, the people who are for this, which are a lot of the people that were involved with passing Amendment 64 in the first place, Brian Vicente Cederberg, and so on, are of the opinion that, hey, vote yes on AA. We promised all these taxes. We promised all this revenue. Here's how we're going to pay for it. We want to make sure it's well regulated. Federal government said if you follow these 8 guidelines, then we'll probably not raid you. And if we're going to follow the guidelines, we got to have the money for the regulators to make sure we're following the guidelines. So let's pass this tax. On the other side, you got the no on AA people, which I got to admit includes Colorado Normal, saying, no, these taxes are too high. These taxes are far too high, and this would set a dangerous precedent if these taxes were passed. It would show that you can overtax marijuana, and according to Robert Corey, he says it's a bait and switch. He says it's a bait and switch because it was sold as regulate marijuana like alcohol, but this would tax marijuana at a far greater rate than alcohol, so he claims. So, I took a look at a few of the pieces of information available on this, and one of them, let's see if I can pull this up here, was the estimates of the taxes and what was this tax too high. The Coloradoan newspaper put out a price of vice was their article, how the proposed marijuana tax compares to alcohol. And to credit the no on AA people, the small bag of weed will still cost more than a 6-pack of beer, and the excise taxes on wholesale marijuana would be a 15% excise tax, 10% sales tax, 3.5% sales tax. Alcohol is taxed less than that. So they have that point. It's not being taxed like alcohol. However, according to the Coloradoan, marijuana would still be taxed less than a pack of cigarettes, which is subject to state and federal excise taxes of 34%. Okay. So the question that comes up here as well is a new article. Now, by the way, this Proposition AA is pretty much expected to pass. It's got very widespread support. So maybe this is just, all much ado about nothing. But the latest complaint that I had to get to here had to do with the ethics of the anti-tax campaign. Now, the proposition, the AA people, the for tax campaign has, $30,000, $40,000 in the bank, and they're not really much in the way of ads because, like I said, it's pretty much expected to pass. So there's not a whole lot of advertising campaign money that has to be done. I understand Governor Hickenlooper did a fundraising dinner that raised a whole lot of the revenue for that. The no on AA people don't have a lot of money to work with. So what they've been doing is publicity rallies, publicity stunts, where Corey and a bunch of folks are giving away free joints. They did this in Denver, the free joint anti-tax giveaway, and they did it in Boulder as well. Now, beyond just questioning the wisdom of, gee, we just passed marijuana legalization. We passed it, saying it's going to be more responsible, and to fight the taxes of it, we're going to give away joints in the public square, which people are invariably going to light up. And that's public pot smoking, which is against the law, even under Amendment 64. So maybe, if we're trying to get voters to think well of us, we shouldn't, go violating the brand new passed law in their face. I don't know. But beyond that, I wanted to get to the specific ethics complaint. This was reported in Westward today in an article called Marijuana Did Anti-Pot Tax Group Break Campaign Law? Now, the campaign law at issue here is disclosure. When you run a campaign, you've got to disclose who's donating money to you. But you also have to disclose in-kind donations. Okay? That's stuff. Like if someone donates office furniture to you or lets you use an office of theirs or a car or whatever, that also has to be disclosed. So the most recent complaint over these anti-tax joint giveaways is who gave all that marijuana? That's a political rally. That's something you gave away at a political rally. In as much as you'd give away pens or Bic lighters or whatever, you'd have to disclose if the Bic company gave you, $2,000 worth of lighters or whatever. So that's the ethics complaint. And when they looked at the records that were filed by Robert Corey for this campaign, he put down that the campaign had gotten a donation of 1 cent. 1 cent. 1 cent worth of donation to run this campaign. Okay, so he explains the 1 cent was because that he couldn't put a zero in because, and this is what he's saying, marijuana has, quote, zero value, end quote. That's right, folks. Marijuana has zero value. This is what he says, quote, under current law, marijuana cannot be sold. No recreational marijuana can be sold until January 1, And after that, only recreational marijuana grown in a licensed facility can be sold. And none of that exists now. End quote. So he says that the marijuana given away at the 2 rallies and the fundraiser with dab buses, quote, has zero value. The reason it even shows up in our disclosures is because we want to be extra transparent, and the reason its cost is set at 1 penny is because everything's done online and the program the Secretary of State uses won't accept a zero. End quote. Well, marijuana has zero value in Colorado. Makes it kind of hard to explain the home invasion robberies people suffer from people breaking in to steal something in their home that has zero value. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense now, does it? When our reformers come up with such blatant, I don't know what to call it, but it just does not pass the laugh test. It does not do our cause any favors. And, I'm not even going to get into Corey's recent arrest at the Rockies game where he's smoking a joint in public and mouthing off to the cop. That doesn't help us in any way. And I also wanted to get to some quotes from Colorado Normal on this because it just fascinated me. Some of her responses as well. The head of Colorado Normal. I don't have it handy right now and I'm running out of time. So we'll save that for another day. Perhaps I'll bring it up in hour 2. But I wanted to just bring up, to end this, the calculator. There is a calculator that Colorado Futures at Colorado State put up. And I'm putting this in the chat room right now. You can play along. This is the Colorado Futures Center's estimator at the Colorado State University. Now, the initial estimates they put in to figure out what the rate should be and how much money they'd have to raise for sales tax and for the schools and for all the promises and all, was that 79% of the medical users would transition into adult recreational. The average user consumes 3.5 ounces a year. It costs $600 to cultivate a pound of marijuana. The average retail markup would be 175%. There'd be an excise tax of 15%. And in their original estimate, an excise tax or a sales tax on top of that of 15%. That was the original goal. The retail price of an ounce of marijuana, including all taxes, would come in at $185. That's right. All this fighting and fussing and free joint giveaways and screams of, oh my God, the taxes are too high, is over an ounce of marijuana that would end up costing good quality Colorado marijuana that would cost $185 an ounce. Now, the calculator has little sliders on it. You can actually adjust it to match, whatever conditions you would so choose to add. We dropped that sales tax down to 10%, which is what the Prop AA actually is. Your retail price of an ounce of marijuana, $177. Wow. Wow, that's such heavy taxation. So, I remember the head of Colorado Normal was saying, wouldn't want to set a precedent for other states that would then set the taxes too high. Hey, how about the precedent of we promised tax money for legalization would help schools, and then those taxes were opposed by the very people who said that would be a good idea, and then the schools don't get fixed, and then the voters in the next state, when they're told that taxing and regulating marijuana will fix their schools, will say, bullshit, look at Colorado. How about that precedent? We'll talk more about this in hour 2. We'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. For Stoney and Snap, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time,
this is the Russ Belville Show.
Take care of each other, tokers.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it.